Welcome to the Pylon to Pylon podcast, where we love football and hate your opinion. Joined always by your hosts, Skylar Burkhart, Richard Bradshaw.
Hello.
And Donnie Druin.
Hello, Governor.
Here we are, NFL Rundown. NFL is going right into week 3. I'm excited to be here, guys. But before we get started, I want to put this out there for everyone. I want to put our condolences out to all the Hurricane Florence victims. I know it's never fun to have that happen, especially in North Carolina where it doesn't happen that often. We just want to take a little bit of time to say condolences out to all the families out there that were affected by this. Go right into it, though. We're going to go right into NFL with Josh Gordon getting traded to the New England Patriots.
For a whole bag of that sticky, icky, right back to Cleveland. Antonio Callaway probably already smoked it, but anyway. Josh Gordon traded to the New England Patriots for a 5th-round pick. What do you, first of all, like, just speaking on the value of that trade, how do you guys think the Browns did? Because I think they kind of, they did okay with Gordon's performance.
My thing is, I think it's just really hard to measure what Gordon's true value is.
It is.
Because the talent level is at least a 2nd-round pick, but the problem with him is like a conditional 7th. So I think they were able to meet kind of in the middle. I think 5th round is solid value for a guy that you can't rely on. But look, if he ends up coming out and just dominates in New England, and if we're being honest, there's no reason that he shouldn't. He's the only person stopping him is himself. So if he's able to come out and just dominate, not only is he going back to the Pro Bowl, but he's taking them to a Super Bowl. Well, and I'm not talking about what he does on weekends.
Well, Jesus, man. We started this early.
Savage.
So my only concern is that you were right. He's the only person that can stop himself, but that's exactly the point. You know, he stops himself from becoming one of the best receivers in the NFL for such a long period of time. You know, I don't think at this point in his career a change of scenery will work out all that best. Everybody wants to point to the whole Randy Moss trade whenever the Raiders shipped him over to the Patriots. And
yeah, that needs to stop.
Yeah, first of all, Randy Moss had his you-know-what together for his career, and he's probably the greatest receiver of all time if you want to break it down, but that's another argument for another day. The case in point is that this is a totally different situation whenever we talk about Josh Gordon. And while I do think the Patriots can revitalize his career, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, my thing, when we're comparing Randy Moss and Josh Gordon, what was Randy Moss's problem in Oakland? He just wasn't motivated. He was lazy. He didn't want to play there. What was Josh Gordon's problem in Cleveland? Consistent failed drug tests, inability to stay on the field. It's a completely different situation. And Randy Moss, either way, is light years ahead of the player that Josh Gordon is.
I don't know. Josh Gordon has a lot of talent, and I think going to the Patriots, that change of scenery is much needed, and I would love to see how he performs there. I mean, with Tom Brady, arguably the best quarterback we've ever seen, is going to have a number 1 wide receiver, true number 1. Some may argue Edelman, Hogan, but you got a huge wide receiver out front that can take the ball and go the whole length of the field at any given point.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that Gordon presents them the highest upside of a wide receiver on that depth chart.
So if there's any team that can take a project like Josh Gordon on and turn him into what he should be, it's definitely the Patriots. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this. Josh Gordon apparently had a hamstring injury in Cleveland, and, signs weren't looking too good for him to play the first couple of weeks. Well, he goes to New England after he gets traded, and he gets an MRI, and it's like this whole leg looks fine. So there were a lot of people kind of saying that, hey, he was kind of wanting to push his way out of Cleveland. He didn't like what was going on. I guess he didn't like the whole Jarvis Landry situation. So I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that.
I think it's funny. This offseason, we just gushed about the Browns receiving core. Between Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman, and Antonio Callaway, we're all just kind of sitting there like, dude, they're 4 deep. Half of them are gone, and we still don't know if we can trust Callaway to be a number 1 receiver, or number 2 receiver, or even to stay on the field at this point. So I would tell you that they're starting to let down their quarterbacks around them, and maybe they're kind of embracing the fact that they still need another draft or 2, and they're just trying to flush out their guys. Because if you remember, their general manager, John Dorsey, right?
Yeah.
John Dorsey was saying that he wants to purge this roster and get football players. And I think that's what he's doing right now is he's getting guys that he knows he can trust day in and day out, with the exception of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, the whole Baker Mayfield situation is an interesting one to keep tabs on. I think eventually he will find his way out into the field whenever he starts. But I think it was funny how they also cut, what's his name, Corey Coleman, whenever they traded for Josh Gordon as well. I thought that was funny. That was a guy who they cleared to make room for Josh Gordon, Coleman.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah, I don't know. This is just like a really weird situation.
Well, I would tell you that's probably the reason he got cut in Cleveland is because Gordon was coming back, and you had Callaway and Ricardo Lewis and a couple other guys that could push. So,
but I think from a New England perspective, fifth round pick is fine. You're not trying to rebuild a franchise off of a fifth round pick. You have your team. Your Super Bowl window is here. It's right now.
Yep.
So I think forking up a fifth round pick for what was a potential superstar, I think they're happy with it.
And you also get him for 2 years. You get this year and you get next year. I mean, that's Tom Brady's Super Bowl window probably, and then after that he may retire. So having this weapon for Tom Brady for the next 2 years, this could take the Patriots to the next level, especially when their defense is much improved. So we're going to go right into our favorite part of the show here. We're going to do our score rundown. This year, this time we're actually going to go through only scores and one player's stat line. Keep it a little quick for you guys. First up, Richie, you want to start us off for the week?
Yeah, unfortunately on Thursday Night Football, the Ravens came out really flat and lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a 34-23 final, but that game at no point in time was very close at all. It was a very frustrating game. The Ravens weren't able to get any sacks or any turnovers. They were getting consistently beat, or at least Tavon Young was getting consistently beat by A.J. Green. But I'm going to go ahead and find a silver lining here and tell you that John Brown looks like a number one receiver in Baltimore. 4 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. He's finding soft spots in the defense. He's making circus catches down the sideline against a 6'2" Drake Patrick. He's coming down with contested balls across the middle. Just bottom line, I feel like, we all hyped up Crabtree. Brown looks like the guy right now.
He's motivated.
Yeah, the Cardinals definitely miss him with their lack of receiver depth as well.
Exactly. Going right into the next game here, we have Minnesota versus Green Bay. They actually ended up in a tie, 29-29.
I hate ties.
Really
Change
awful
that
game.
rule. Change the rule.
They need to.
Don't
Get college going.
Don't exactly. Don't take 5 minutes away from overtime and say you're doing that for player safety. Whenever you won't fix a lot of the rules you have set in place exactly for player safety. It's stupid. Nobody wants to walk away from a game with a tie.
Especially when the Minnesota kicker couldn't make a kick to save his life.
He missed 3, didn't he?
Yep, 3
I feel for him.
game winners. Each and every one of them was a game winner. We'll go right into the next one. We have Houston versus Tennessee. Houston lost that one 17-20. Tennessee came on top. Both teams are really struggling. We finally saw DeAndre Hopkins get more active. And Will Fuller. We saw him with a big touchdown right in the beginning of the game. Starting to look more like Houston's offense from last year.
Yeah, Will Fuller just has this connection with Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure what it is, but every time Fuller's been on the field, Watson kind of really looks to him. So
I think it was 4 or 5 games he's only played with Deshaun Watson. Did you know that?
Yeah, like 5 games, and I think he's gone over 200 yards with like a handful of touchdowns as well.
Yeah, he's probably got 6 or 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And the small handful of games that he played with Watson, those two are best friends.
Going to Indy, we actually have Indy versus Washington, where the Colts came on top 21-9, where a poor outing by Washington after a big stomping of the Cardinals in Week 1. Saw a lot of disappointment from the running backs on Washington. They didn't perform to the highest level, and Andrew Luck looked like a game manager once again.
I was about to say, yeah, the Andrew Luck wagon's finally back. It was good to see him back on the field and to finally get a win for the Colts after losing in Week 1.
Going on to, I'll let Donnie actually have this next one because
of course
I know.
you will. All right, so the Chiefs marched into Pittsburgh for the first time in 1986 and pulled out a win. It was a 42-37 game over the Steelers. Patrick Mahomes, 6 touchdowns, tied a franchise record for most touchdown passes thrown in the game. Kid looks legit. Patrick Mahomes looks like the guy we all thought we were getting whenever the Chiefs first drafted him last year. And, after barnstorming the Chargers in Week 1, he comes right back and does it again in Week 2.
Well, if I can jump in real quick and just talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Go ahead.
I think I was one of the more outspoken people about my concern with starting Mahomes so quickly. But one thing that I did mention every time is Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. And if he thinks that Mahomes is ready, then he's starting him. If he didn't think so, he would have held on to Alex Smith for another year. But I don't think any of us could have predicted the kind of production that Mahomes is putting up. And let's be realistic here. It's not going to continue to stay like this. But at this point, 4,000 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, that seems extremely attainable for Patrick Mahomes and a Pro Bowl berth. I mean, he looks completely unstoppable right now. He's got the big cannon arm that we all love. He can move around the pocket. He's just incredible.
What I like about him is that he carries himself like he's been a veteran quarterback in the league for years. He's
got a chip on his shoulder.
He commands himself so well. And
he commands the offense.
For a young guy, like just sitting and watching the game on Sunday, he was making big boy throws. He was throwing like seam routes to Travis Kelce like in the end zone, and like Steeler linebackers like were just finding out about it because they turned like their head and boom, like Travis Kelce was already doing his little swagger dance in the end zone after he scored.
Yeah, let's be real. Patrick Mahomes could be a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. That man's throwing heat.
He's got a cannon.
Just to think the Chargers were supposed to be the favorite in this division, and now look at the Chiefs stepping up.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think two people here picked the Chargers to win the division.
Yes.
And then the other person picked the Chiefs to win the division.
So this is going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs play out.
Okay.
How about that? Real quick, just a fun question.
He's going to make fun of me.
No. With $1,000 on the line, could you run a post route, or not a post route, like just like an
in route?
Yes. Could you run an in route about 15 yards out and catch a Patrick Mahomes fastball, no gloves?
No.
I'd try it. I may not be able to get it.
Yeah, I would try it. I'd have fun.
I think I'd break my finger.
I'd give him the autograph my broken hand after. But
Exactly.
Or gut check.
Yeah.
Going right into Miami. Everyone here, when I say going into, they're starting to make fun of me, but I need to knock it off.
Take a shot.
Exactly. Take a shot. But Miami went with the New York Jets here 20-12. Miami and the Jets kind of were both really lacking on offense in this game. We saw Sam Darnold tear it up week one, and this week was not the case. Dolphins came out on top.
Ryan Tannehill has been proving doubters wrong this year. He's coming out, he's playing hot. It's not outstanding play, but he's playing a lot better than we all would have thought, considering he missed all 2017 with his knee injury.
Yeah, I want to see this kind of last for a whole season because Tannehill does have his spurts to where he'll look like a good quarterback. And
100%.
Yeah, I just want to see him continue it for a whole year, and hopefully having Adam Gase in the building will help.
Definitely. He only makes quarterbacks better. Tampa Bay versus Philadelphia. We have Tampa Bay 27-21.
Are we calling that an upset?
I'm calling that an upset.
Okay.
Majority of people say upset. I say right where expected is where I'm going to put it.
Well, you got the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles,
And a team that's competing for the number one pick. Oh my God, it's not an upset. It's devastating. It's Michigan losing to Appalachian State.
Rude.
But Tampa Bay, Fitzmagic, wow. This guy is outperforming what he's worth. I mean, came in here as a backup quarterback, thought his career was done after leaving with the Jets, and he's putting up big boy numbers again.
My problem is that Ryan Fitzpatrick always does this. He always comes into a team, he lights it up for a couple weeks, and then he just plateaus. I don't know how long he can keep this up. I think he'll do it again in week 3 against a really poor Steelers defense, but I just at some point, especially with Jameis Winston coming back, I think he's going to start to kind of dip a little bit.
Well, and that's the question I want to provoke, because Winston comes back after week 3.
Yep.
If Fitzpatrick has another big game and puts up, 4 touchdowns for the third week of the season, but you still view Winston as your franchise quarterback, what do you do?
Whoa, Deshaun Jackson actually came out today and said you got to roll with the hot hand. So he's kind of referencing, hey, if Fitzpatrick has another good game, I think you got to stick with him.
I would agree with Deshaun.
I would have to agree with Deshaun as well.
You have to. Deshaun Jackson's having the best numbers he's had in a while. I mean, you got to stick with that and keep this offense rolling. You're 2-0 right now. You got to stay with that.
No, what was also interesting is that after the Week 2 win against the Eagles, all of the Buccaneers receivers came back to a text from Jameis Winston that said, awesome game. I don't know if you guys caught that, but
I didn't.
Winston actually reached out and said, "Hey guys, awesome game." Then his receiver's like, you can stay where you're at.
You can stay.
Fitzmagic's throwing us the ball. It's good.
Tampa Bay is sitting first place in the NFC South right now as the only undefeated team.
Yeah, raise your hand if you saw that coming.
Remember, Richie picked them to pick number 1 overall.
I do.
Did you see the post game where he came out looking like Conor McGregor, all the bling and everything?
Dude, Fitzpatrick's feeling himself right now. It's actually really fun to watch.
I'm not going to lie to you. It was a pretty good looking man.
Oh, yeah. No, he is with the beard and
He
his
had
haircut.
the swagger.
I'm just borrowing it.
No, he looks good for sure.
Yeah, swag levels through the roof.
Staying within the NFC South here, the New Orleans Saints barely beat the Cleveland Browns, which was actually a really close game throughout the whole entire thing. It was interesting to watch. I watched it all the way through. Browns look legit.
Yeah, they're definitely not the same old Browns, and they showed us in week 1 that they could at least be competitive with playoff teams from last year. But, fellas, do you know what the three of us and Zan Gonzalez have in common? We don't play in the NFL anymore. Oh, man.
Big or bust, Gonzalez or Aguayo?
Aguayo.
Just for where he was picked.
Second round bust.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason, right? Was just draft value?
That, and I feel like Gonzalez has kind of showed a little bit on an NFL field what he can do.
He's been consistent, and then he goes on the spurt where he just misses like a bunch. I don't understand.
We all know how I feel about Zane Gonzalez.
You do.
You posted a video earlier, which I enjoyed the hell out of, where they had the Barstool, where they came out and they were talking about, it's Kicker Nation.
For the brand.
And they kept making fun of Gonzalez, saying, he should go back and play in the Canadian League. And they had Johnny Manziel.
Be able to play.
No, but, I mean, the Saints look good, but they got to beat the Browns. And they kept feeding the ball to Kamara. And again, you saw Sean Payton kind of slowly take away from Kamara, saying, hey, let's slow down the carries, when they definitely needed him throughout that game.
Meanwhile, Michael Thomas has 28 receptions through the first 2 games of the season.
Grown-ass man.
On 30 targets.
That's a grown-ass man.
Big boy. Making big boy plays. Every time he was in the end zone with that ball, there was no one stopping him. Carolina versus Atlanta, NFC South once again. Atlanta comes on top 31-24. Atlanta finally showed a little bit more firepower against a really tough battle with Carolina, with McCaffrey showing a lot of PPR value in this game.
Oh, yeah, Christian McCaffrey's the real deal, but it was nice to see Atlanta get back home and finally get a W. Watch DJ Moore, though. Coach Ron Rivera said on Monday that they're going to start putting more on his plate, and he showed what he could do after that big 50-yard touchdown catch.
Obviously, the story here is going to be about Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And going over 100 yards, he had 14 receptions. And, I mean, he still did some damage in the run game. He had 37 yards on 8 carries.
What was it? How many receptions?
14.
14.
On 15 targets.
When do you hear a running back in 14 receptions in a game?
Saquon Barkley.
Chris Thomas.
Yeah.
Chris Thompson. Excuse me. But the point I was trying to make, lost in all the talk about Christian McCaffrey, is how good Super Cam looked. Passed for over 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick, and then had 42 more yards on the ground.
That's exactly what you need from Cameron Newton. Exactly. And even though they lost, I think you have to be happy with Newton's performance so far in 2018.
He's playing a lot better this year, and they really need it from him.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy who can lead you back to the playoffs. I would tell you entirely the season will be dependent on the play of Cam Newton.
In the first start of his NFL career, Josh Allen comes out and cuts a close game with the Chargers. 31-20, Buffalo loses, though. Chargers struggled a little bit, but came out on top. Really used Melvin Gordon in this one. And Buffalo scores 20 points, which definitely is a bigger scoring out than they did last week against Baltimore.
Yeah, it's always tough whenever West Coast teams go and visit the East Coast and vice versa as well. So I'm not surprised the Chargers struggled a little bit, but they did come out with a double-digit win. So business as usual. Phillip Rivers looked nice. Keenan Allen looked good as well. That Chargers defense, I'm really excited about Derwin James moving forward. But
even though Joey Bosa, their defense is doing pretty well.
Yeah, when's he going to be back, by the way?
It's week to week.
Week to week.
We're going to go...
real quick. Melvin Gordon may have had a hat trick. It was really hard not to get excited about Austin Eckler, though.
Yeah, Eckler's starting to get some value in fantasy football, man. They're really starting to kind of put some more work on his plate.
He had more carries than Gordon and the same amount of... No, excuse me, not the same amount of receptions. I take that back.
A lot of fantasy players are saying... fantasy players, I guess you would say, are saying that Eckler's a vulture because he's taking all the value away from Gordon almost. Even though Gordon's putting up a bunch of numbers, Eckler's now almost sharing the carries and doing the same amount of damage.
Well, you want touchdowns from your running backs, especially in standard formats. So the column of vulture, it's kind of, I'm hesitant to put that label on him so far, just because Gordon did have the 3 touchdowns in the first half. But
yeah, we all know who the real vulture is.
Last year, he was really bad at it, but this year, I mean, they're both being used so much, and it's good to see the Chargers actually have a really true running game and even using him out of the backfield a lot more. Detroit versus San Francisco. San Francisco squeaks out barely 30-27. What are your thoughts on this game with Jimmy G?
It's just another shootout between Jimmy G and Matthew Stafford. 2 quarterbacks that love to throw the football. Personally, I didn't get to watch this game, but I caught a couple of highlights, and Jimmy G continues to improve every week, and that's kind of what you want to see.
Did you see his throw in the fourth quarter where he clearly eyed down the receiver and the Detroit picked it off easy money right back for a pick 6, but a holding call was on that play, so they had to return back.
I did not see that, no.
He eyed it down, so as soon as he snapped back, he looked to his left, immediately eyed the receiver the whole way. Another big thing to point out with Jimmy G, he's still young. He hasn't played a lot in this league still. Even though he's played, 7-8 games now, he's still making a lot of mistakes. A lot of people put him high on that pedestal. He's a regular quarterback. He's not the superstar everyone thought he was.
Well, he's still a young guy. People need to remember that. He doesn't have a full season underneath his belt yet. He got to sit and watch for a little bit, but San Francisco, late last year, kind of threw him into the fire. And he did surprisingly well. And this year, now that teams actually have a little bit of film on him, he needs to start to adjust to that.
There's more expectations this year than last year because they were a lost cause. They weren't going to win any more games. They were like, we're going to put you in and see what you got. And he ended up winning all the games. Now there's expectation, and they can see what he does. They're going to kick the crap out of him.
Yeah, we can get excited about Jimmy Garoppolo all day, but very nice rebound week from Matthew Stafford. 3 touchdowns, 0 picks.
That's right. Kind of sounds
347 passing yards.
Silencing the critics after a really bad week 1.
And those receivers went off. Golden Tate over 100 yards. Kenny Galladay almost 90 yards. Marvin Jones only had 54 yards, but he had a touchdown. That trio is incredibly underrated.
And we're even starting to see the running back situation in Detroit start to pan out with Kerryon Johnson. He's actually starting to be the lead back, it seems like, right now, especially with the other ones not performing as well.
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson had 5.4 yards per carry this week and 5 receptions for 23 yards. He, coming out of the process, was not compared to Le'Veon Bell, but he was compared in terms of patience to Le'Veon Bell. So he's a guy who knows how to set up his blocks and just makes good reads. He's not at a Le'Veon Bell level, and that's not what we're trying to say here. What we're trying to say is they've got a guy who's completely unique in that backfield and separates himself from the rest of the party.
Denver versus Oakland. Denver comes on top 20-19, barely beating their rival. Denver really looking really low scoring offense right now. I mean, for all the hype bringing Case Keenum in there, with all the talent they have in the wide receiver room, and especially with their 2 new rookie running backs, they were really flat this game.
Yeah, they're 2 new rookie running backs, which includes Phillip Lindsay, who's lighting up
out of nowhere.
Actually did a scouting report on him, too. I was reading that the other night. I thought he was too small. I was not a fan of him coming out of Colorado. And he went undrafted, unsurprisingly, but him and Royce Freeman are a fantastic duo for them, but Lindsay looks like the guy, not Freeman. It's not Rolls-Royce like we all thought it would be.
No.
It's Lindsay. It's incredible. Meanwhile, they still have their 2 great receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but the offense is going to be one of those things where they're not going to put up 50 points on you every week. They're going to put up 17, 20 points, and they're just going to have their defense bite down. Speaking of which, right now, Von Miller's Defensive Player of the Year. Finally. He deserves that mantle.
I don't know about that one. The reason I say that is the Bears game with Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack, what he's done being on the Bears team so far, has been outstanding.
I think it does boil down to Mack and Miller. Right now.
Mack and Miller.
Yeah.
Mack, Miller.
Yeah.
RIP, shout out,
RIP,
rest in peace, you
RIP.
glorious man.
Switching to a happier subject, though, I think I would have to give the edge to Khalil Mack. Just right now, just through 2 weeks of the season, dude's coming into a Chicago Bears defense, hasn't really fit the scheme in terms of what their defensive coordinator wants to do, but they throw him in there because he's a damn good football player, and look what he's done already.
Disrupted the hell out of Russell Wilson.
And that's no slight to Von Miller, because Von Miller's been tearing it up as well.
Von Miller leads the league in sacks with 4 right now.
It's crazy.
He's on a tear. Amari Cooper had a really nice bounce-back week, caught all 10 of his targets for over 100 yards. That is definitely a good thing going forward. Even though the Raiders are 0-2, you just hope that they can continue to kind of gel. This was a much closer game than the previous week.
New England versus Jacksonville. Big matchup. Everyone was looking forward to this game. Donnie?
That was the game I circled on my calendar.
That should have been Sunday Night Football.
Oh yeah. No disrespect to the Cowboys and Giants, but that definitely should have been
disrespect. That was a pitiful game.
Absolutely.
We're not even going to talk about that game just because how pitiful it was. We'll just leave them in the back burner. Just say Dallas won 20-13, and that's all you need to know.
Did you see?
Well, we should do that with the Rams game too. What do we have to talk about?
Somebody on Twitter was because I'm pretty sure it was USA Today that was like Dak Prescott silences his critics, and with like a Sunday night win, somebody quoted it was like, "Ooh, a touchdown with 160 yards."
I did see that.
I did not see that, so that's funny. I don't know who you saw that from, but you better show me after this podcast.
I will.
But New England, Jacksonville, I know you circled this game.
I did.
How exciting was it to watch New England lose?
Man, it's kind of like whenever you're in a movie theater and you're watching like a superhero movie, and like at the very end of the movie, the bad guy goes down. It's like finally, like this is kind of what we've been wanting. New England for the larger part of the last 2 decades has been, the evil empire. They've been the opposite of, the Jedi for all you Star Wars fans out there. Jacksonville at home. Can we talk about, thank you. Can we talk about Blake Bortles and how he's kind of...
You took away what I was going to point out.
Yeah. Can we talk about Blake Bortles being a legitimate quarterback, at least for the near future?
Where did he come from? Where?
I think with Leonard Fournette being out, they kind of had to focus on, a little bit more a quarterback focused offense.
It was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because until they can find a way to make Fournette consistently good in that offense, because, the first week he had just a couple carries, but he was averaging well over 4 yards a carry, so it looked like they maybe started to figure something out, but obviously he's got the nagging hamstring injury. You would assume that it's going to slow him down a little bit, but in the meantime, Bortles looked phenomenal. 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, but the real story has to be Keelan Cole and the incredible amount of talent that he has. Fun fact, led the Jaguars in receiving yards last year very quietly.
Really?
I would have lost that bet. I would have said Marquise Lee.
Yeah, I would have said Marquise Lee as well.
Austin Eckler, not Austin Eckler. We talked about him earlier. Keelan Cole. Sorry, I like Eckler.
Did you guys see the rant on the sideline by Tom Brady where he said, "Do your job" to his receivers?
Oh, so Tom Brady can go on a rant on the sideline, and he's a competitor and he wants to win, but Antonio Brown does the same thing, and he's viewed as a bad teammate.
I guess the difference is between a coach.
I didn't
Maybe
know.
That may be the reason.
I didn't know.
But
don't bring race into this. I will shut this podcast.
No. That's not what I'm going.
No. He wasn't ready.
Last Sunday, the last game of Sunday Night Football that we're going to talk about was the Rams versus Cardinals. We'll keep it brief. Rams dominated the Cardinals. I want to touch up not on the Rams, but what is going on with the Cardinals.
It's just a bad football team. They're finally being exposed for it. I think just because we live out here in Cardinal land, we hear on the radio, this team's this team can go like 7 or 8 wins this year. No, it's a bad football team. Sam Bradford's not worth the $20 million you're paying him. No. You're not giving David Johnson the ball at all. Larry Fitzgerald can't be the only guy on that receiving core that can carry it. The entire 16-game schedule. You need to fix your pass defense. Chandler Jones can't get after quarterback every single play. Give him some help. Robert Nkemdiche, step up.
He did step up. He actually played really well this game. It's been a long waited, though. He definitely should have stood up the last 2 years.
Not a single Cardinals receiver was over 10 yards a catch in this game.
Rams shut him down. That simple as that. 34-0. That's all we're going to go over. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Pretty much a snooze fest for most of it. But Chicago came out on top in the fourth quarter with a nice pick 6 of Russell Wilson, 24-17.
Okay, so I want to make this clear. You can't praise Russell Wilson for his playmaking ability, and you can't make jokes about his offensive line being so bad and then turn around and then degrade him for how he plays. You just can't expect Russell Wilson to carry an offense for 16 games in a season and not expect him to have one bad game, especially if you're playing on the road. So, but we're going to go ahead and excuse our host, Skylar Burkhart, for skipping over the Sunday Night Football game, the Giants-Cowboys. I know. He's all right. He's doing all right. 20-13 was the final score. Big narratives from the game. 1, Saquon Barkley looks like the real deal despite his team's loss. And number 2, Dak Prescott finally taking control of a Cowboys offense and lead the team to a victory.
Hey, Dak, can you throw the ball down the field? I'm not going to. So stop asking.
Well, he did go deep to Tavon Austin super early in the game.
But after that, there's a lot of checkdowns, really. What is the limits of this Cowboy offense? It seems like every year we ask this question, when is it time for the offensive coordinator to be changed?
Well, when's it time for the head coach to be changed? A lot of people are calling for Jason Garrett's head.
They need to. This has been a mediocre offense at best. You had the best offensive line in football, and you couldn't get further in the playoffs without it.
The issue with Dallas and how that organization is set up is that Jason Garrett is a yes man to Jerry Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Jones will keep that man on that roster for as long as he's letting Jerry do what he wants.
Yes, sir. Can I have some more, sir?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
That's how it is.
Yes. Going right into the next segment here, we're actually going to Best Game of the Week.
Game of the week.
What was your favorite game of the week?
Jaguars Patriots for sure.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, it was just the excitement, the potential playoff implications that game carried. These teams don't hate each other per se. There's definitely some bad blood between them, but it's 2 really good football teams facing each other, and they'll probably face each other again. So I think this is round 1 of a potential round 2 matchup.
I think my favorite game of the week was definitely Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Not for the defensive part of it, but
what defensive part?
What defense?
Exactly, but the offense was so electric to watch that game. It was just going back and forth of high scoring offense.
In the second half, it was back and forth, and in the first half, it was just fourth.
But it was a good game, just watching and see the firepower of each team, because you know what the Steelers are capable of, but now you get to see what Patrick Mahomes does in a second game. He put up big boy numbers. I love watching that.
Yeah, Juju consistently is able to be a dominant presence in that offense.
Yeah, it really helps with Antonio Brown commanding the double teams he has, but Juju's doing a really good job lately of kind of taking advantage of it. He's actually in the team, and I want to believe receptions and receiving yards as well.
Because Antonio Brown's been off to kind of a slow start, so he's been taking advantage of it.
Well, we're probably going to end up trading him, so.
Yeah, that's cute. Let's find out. Trade me.
Was there any injuries this week, boys?
So we actually had a couple of notable injuries to kind of watch over as your fantasy teams go into week 3. So Leigh Fitzgerald has a hamstring injury, but he's expected to play in week 3. Jay Ajayi might not be available for your teams coming into next week. He's still kind of dealing with that back injury, but he was able to return in week 2. So you got him, you got Fitz. Tariq Cohen hurt his ankle in week 3, and Richie, yes, you can list Tariq Cohen in your top 10 favorite players. I saw that tweet. Great dude. So he hurt his ankle, but he's expected to be fine. Jarvis Landry was limited by a knee injury in Monday's practice, but I don't think that's going to be anything serious.
And Carson Wentz is back.
Carson Wentz is indeed back. He was cleared for contact, and he was named the immediate starter going into week 3.
As well he should be, because Foles was just not what we
He wasn't Super Bowl Foles, and half of me kind of doesn't think it's fair to expect him to play like that every week, just because we've seen the big sample size, and people who really pay attention to football like us, we kind of know what Nick Foles is. So I don't think Philadelphia Eagles fans were fair to kind of put those expectations on him going out.
Very hot and cold. I love the next segment that we have coming up. It's our main meat of the podcast. We really get to break down some of the rookie stuff that's been happening throughout the NFL.
I love meat.
To start it off, Josh Allen, his first NFL start. What did you guys think of it?
Richie, you met him. He said he's a nice guy. You want to go first?
It was just about what you would expect from him. There were definitely flashes in the pan. There wasn't enough to really make you sit there and go, wow, this kid's totally figured it out. In the same sense, he didn't come out and just suck the way that a lot of people were assuming he was going to. He did throw 2 interceptions compared to only 1 touchdown, but he was able to move around the pocket. He had 32 rushing yards. He was able to make some big connections. Zay Jones had a 57-yard catch. Chris Ivory had a 30-yard catch. Patrick DeMarco had a 24-yard catch. And Charles Clay had a 21-yard catch. So they were able to consistently just get those chunk yards and show off some big playability entirely. Shady's still not that great. Chris Ivory is what he is. So in the meantime, it's kind of the Josh Allen show. And it hasn't been that disappointing.
So I want to start this off by saying that I think I was a little hard on Josh Allen going through the draft process, and I think a lot of other people were. I think a lot of people were. They gave him a really hard time. They never really gave him his fair share at things. So I also want to say that he's not working with the best of scenarios in terms of players around him, coaching, talent, all that good stuff. So I need people to bear with him as he continues to grow into an NFL quarterback. That being said, though, sorry for cutting you off. That being said, though, he's got a long way to go, and that's kind of what you expect from a guy out of Wyoming coming to the NFL, making his first start in week 2. I went back and watched all of his throws. Some throws, like Richie said, looked like the kid you want. He has a really good pocket presence about him. He's able to move around. He's able to extend plays. But there were plays where one play he was getting sacked. He was getting sacked on the right side of the field, decided instead of throwing it away or taking the sack, just to lob it up, and he throws a pick. On that Zay Jones big 50-yard pass play, he underthrew Zay Jones. Zay Jones had to come back for that football and grab it. The arm strength is unreal. He can zip a football anywhere on the field. But the accuracy was the big issue for him coming out. And, obviously it's still, one of the big red flags for him. So I think I'm going to agree with Richie. It was definitely what you expected out of him, and I think he has a long way to go, but not the worst start at all.
And that's what I was going to touch on, too. I mean, this is his first NFL start. He probably wasn't going to start for at least until week 6 at minimum, and now he's being forced in that starting role a little bit too soon for my liking because he needed to develop that playbook more and kind of work on his footwork, just some small mechanical stuff.
I think a lot of us need to stop looking at the box score and kind of take everything else into consideration. He's playing on a very bad Buffalo Bills football team.
A very bad Buffalo Bills football team.
How do you think Buffalo Bills feel? I mean, you get embarrassed by the Ravens, and then, the Ravens get beaten on Thursday Night Football the week after.
I would be like, at least we're not as bad as the Cardinals. I think that's what my mentality would be as.
I think the Cardinals would beat the Bills right now.
I'm not sure about that.
I'd take the Cardinals.
I would take the Cardinals.
I'd take the Bills on this one. LaShawn McCoy would probably get hot on that one. I think that's where it would go out.
Well, it really sucks to be a Bills fan now that they have outlawed table smashing.
Have they?
They have.
Whack. Boo.
It is what it is.
Boo.
But if you did want to join that, or you still want to go anyways and join them, go to SeatGiant.com. They're going to have all your needs for all your sporting events, concerts, family events that are going on near you for the best prices that you can imagine. Even if they're not good enough for you, use the promo code PYLON. That's PYLON. Get an additional discount to already great price tickets at SeatGiant.com.
Awesome. Love the plug there. And going into the next thing here, we spoke on the Cardinals a little bit earlier. When is it time for Rosen? The Cardinals are playing really bad football right now. David Johnson's not getting the ball a lot. Finally, the head coach came out and said, we're going to start getting more involved. How long is it going to be until they would acknowledge that? And when are we going to put Rosen in to help him out?
You keep that man out of that mess for as long as you can. If I'm the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, or if I'm the GM of the Arizona Cardinals, I see to it that Josh Rosen, doesn't start a football game in 2018.
A lot of Arizona Cardinals fans are demanding for him to be in now.
The problem with guys who get drafted high, and why you see so many busts at the quarterback position, is that these guys get thrown into garbage situations, and they're expected to lift this team out of some magical funk. And there's just so much wrong with this Cardinals football team that putting in Josh Rosen, he's not going to fix much right off the bat.
Well, let's not forget about his shoulder and concussion issues. Behind that, you want to talk about a patchwork offensive line that Seattle has. Arizona's right there with them.
Oh, yeah.
You got a couple big names. Congratulations on Justin Pugh, Andre Smith,
Mike Iupati,
and Jared Veldheer. In 2012, that looks like a really good offensive line. But guess what? It's 2018. They're old, they're washed up, and they can't stop anyone.
And
DJ Humphries hasn't been good either.
If you want to look at it from a financial perspective, I'm not paying a quarterback $20 million to sit on the bench. I'm not doing it.
And you're going against the Bears week 3. You're getting Khalil Mack attack. Do not put Rosen in for week 3. You can't.
So, but like, would you have him sit the whole year? Like I would?
I would love to see what he's capable of maybe later in the season. If you're getting blown out and you lost every game come week 8, I say put him in and see what he's got. Maybe for a quarter or something at the end of the game and just see. Because obviously you want him to get a little bit of playing time. You don't want him to sit out the whole season because he wants that experience.
Yeah, I'm more of a guy to where I'd rather have a quarterback learn from other people's mistakes than his own. And I understand that
Well, you should have learned by now.
Well, I understand that like sometimes a guy needs to go out there on the field and get that real in-game experience, and I do understand that. But look what happens whenever a guy gets put into a good situation and he starts right away. Patrick Mahomes, he sat for a year like I'm saying Rosen should. And, wow, I don't expect the Cardinals to kind of be built like the Chiefs next season.
No.
I mean, there's still like a decent team around him to build off of. This falls more on the front office than anybody. They got a really good deal moving up and getting Josh Rosen. Was it number 10?
Yep. They traded up to the 10th overall pick with the Oakland Raiders, who traded down and then took Colton Miller.
So that was definitely, for the Raiders, that was a terrible choice. But just trading up and getting Rosen, that was a good move, but let's say you build around him. You got your guy now, do what Chicago did, do what, Kansas City's going to continue to do. Just build around your young quarterback, and the whole paying Sam Bradford $20 million just didn't make any sense.
No, definitely. So I want to touch up, and we're going to go to the other side of the states. Washington, D.C., Thunder and Lightning is here. I mean, I love seeing this. Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson, the 1-2 punch everyone's been waiting to see.
Yeah, Alex Smith has been really fortunate in terms of run support throughout his career. I definitely think that's for sure. But,
Frank Gore, Jamal Charles.
Oh, Jamal Charles.
Who would have thought 2 weeks into 2018 that a Redskins backfield with Chris Thompson and Adrian Peterson would arguably be the best in the NFL right now?
Well, especially if I told you they were going to lose Darius Geis before the season started. And they signed Peterson within like the last, week and a half before the season kicked off?
Yep.
Rob Kelly just went to IR too. I mean, they just diminished the running back room pretty quickly, and no one would have thought Adrian Peterson was going to have another job again.
He's looked strong thus far.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the AP of old, but it still looks like he has some gas left in the tank.
He's making catches out of the backfield. That's something we usually don't see out of AP. So whatever they're doing it right.
Yeah, I think we were all disappointed whenever Darius Geis went down, because I know for people like me and Richie, we loved watching him play, and I was really excited to watch him in 2018.
What's the nickname?
What's the nickname?
What's
for
his
Darius
nickname?
Geis?
Yeah.
Muscle hamster.
No,
I'm kidding.
Come on!
What's his nickname?
He's in Oakland.
I've said this a million times.
What
the
is it?
angry ballerina.
You said that maybe 3 times.
Bet.
Oh, no, not another.
God.
You lose.
I love saying he's the angry ballerina. Shout out to Connor J. Rogers.
The angry ballerina.
Anyway, though, just moving forward into the season, can we expect this to keep up?
No.
I think we can. Alex Smith is a game manager. He's got Chris Thompson where he can check down to, which is one of his favorite things to do, obviously. And on Adrian Peterson's the power back. I think this is going to be a good Redskins offense going forward and could compete to be actually the division winner for that.
I guess we'll see. I don't believe in their offensive line. I don't believe in Adrian Peterson long term. I didn't really buy into Chris Thompson coming into this year, coming off an ACL tear, but at the end of the day, he's a pass-catching running back who can probably benefit in that backfield. We'll wait and see. They need their receivers to start stepping up in like the worst way.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think in a Jay Gruden offense, he definitely likes to use his running backs, but I agree with you, Richie. At some point, those receivers need to step up.
Speaking of disappointed in the wide receiver group, let's move into who is the team you're most disappointed in so far?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
And what's your reasoning?
Watch the games, pal. What do you mean, what's my reasoning?
What's the biggest disappointment on the team so far? What's been standing out to you?
The defense. The offense has put up 21 points and then 37 points. It's not a problem that they can't score the football. It's a matter of stopping the other team. It was a 21-21 tie in week 1, and I had my concerns about a defense that gave up 3 touchdowns to Tyrod Taylor. and moving into week 2, a red hot Patrick Mahomes ran into Pittsburgh and ran out with a bunch of money in his hand like he was robbing a bank. And, moving forward to week 3 with another red hot offense, going to play Tampa Bay, it's just things aren't looking good. I think Keith Butler's on a hot seat. I think he'll be gone after this year. It's just at some point, you need to put the players in the right position to succeed. And I'm so tired of watching old linebackers have to cover really athletic tight ends like Travis Kelce. It just doesn't work. You're not getting a whole lot of pressure. You're letting Mahomes kind of sit back and throw the football. The miscommunications on defense has been awful. Whether it's players coming in and out to substitute, their communication on zone defense has been horrendous. And, now's your time to win a Super Bowl. Right now. Not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now. Right now is your window. And right now you're 0-1-1 and you're not hitting it.
Agreed. Richie, what was your team most disappointed in?
I'm going to go ahead and take Detroit. They have an offense that should be able to put up points consistently every week, but they can't stop turning the football over. Matthew Stafford threw 4 interceptions in week 1, and while he was able to calm down a little bit, this still is a Detroit Lions team that, despite the fact that they've been finishing 8-8, 9-7 over the last few years, this feels like a team that's maybe a 4 or 5 win squad. And I don't know what it is about the team, because there's talent all over the place, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough for them to consistently be able to be successful. And I don't want to say it because I do like the Lions and I can cheer for them, but it's starting to feel like they're going to head back towards the cellar of the NFL at this rate.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. The team I'm most disappointed in is we've all seen him on Monday night. We've seen him throughout the week here, and their head coach has been criticized for all the offseason moves he's done. John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders. This team had so much hype coming in this season. He was going to change Oakland. He was going to make this a powerhouse football team. He signed a 10-year contract, and they're 0-2 and looking like one of the worst teams in the NFL. I really expected for John Gruden to come in here and make this a powerhouse team to be their division rival, especially the Denver Broncos that didn't play very well and have almost a lackluster defense, it seems like, outside of Von Miller, because they almost beat them. And I want to see what they can do going forward, because right now they're really disappointing to watch.
You're right. Can't disagree with anything you two said.
So instead of disappointed by, let's switch over to who's the team you're most impressed by so far this year.
I don't understand how you can't say Tampa Bay. They're the team that I picked to own the rest of the number 1 overall pick, and yet they're 2-0 right now. Their defense is playing solid football, but my God, Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably the front runner for the MVP at this point.
Remember when I told you guys that Tampa's not going to be as bad as everyone thinks they are? And I said that the Bills would probably be the worst?
Yeah, but I don't think anybody really saw.
Agreed. It's only 2 weeks in, but I mean, the Tampa Bay is a built team. They have a lot of talent. It just, I didn't see them being this good right off the bat, but I also didn't expect them to be horrible.
It's all about that receiving core. Chris Godwin has been a godsend.
Well, I was about to say, you start off with Mike Evans, who's just an animal in his own right. And then you have Deshaun Jackson, who keeps defenses honest, and he can take the top off of any 11 people you put back there. Then you have to do what Chris Godwin as wide receiver number 3, who's been just killing it lately. Shout out to Penn State. But, yeah, and I have to agree with Richie. How can you not pick Tampa Bay at this point?
And you can't forget about O.J. Howard.
Yeah, O.J. Howard looks super athletic as well. He had a 75-yard touchdown.
Yep. It was the same distance that Deshaun Jackson had.
Jeez,
they're a good team. I would put mine, though, as the Cleveland Browns for the reason that they're not losing games by a lot. They're going into crunch time, fighting grit for grit, wanting to win these football games. They're not the same team we've seen in the past. They have a lot of talent, very young team, and they're up and coming. I'm really impressed by them so far.
Yeah, that's a good team. They took 2 potential Super Bowl winners, preseason-wise, and the Steelers and the Saints back-to-back weeks, and they took them right down to the wire.
Not even using the rookie quarterback. They're using Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into a new segment where we're going to go break down and win-loss record, the win-loss of the week for Week 3. We're going to go through all the teams, and we're going to determine if it's a win or loss, who's going to win that week. Does everyone have their schedule pulled up?
Yep.
First game, New York Jets versus Cleveland on Thursday Night Football.
What a shitty Thursday night.
Thank God I have to work.
Same.
Yeah.
I know. I'll be watching it.
Yeah, I have to work, so thankfully.
Give me the Jets.
Yeah.
With how they looked week 1 against the Lions, I know that talent and that swagger is still going to be with the team. I don't think Cleveland's there yet.
I
Yeah,
think
Cleveland's quite not there yet. I'll also take the Jets.
actually you'll take Cleveland on this one. I think their defense steps up and limits Sam Darnold, and Taylor gets it done with Jarvis Landry.
Well, Myles Garrett is going to be a man on a mission to terrorize.
Why is nobody talking about him?
Because it's the Browns.
Dude, he's so good.
That's the excuse. It's the Browns. They just don't want to watch
so
it.
good, man.
It's everything you want and more.
I can't wait for him to just kind of like blossom and just like perfect his craft. He's going to be unstoppable.
Yep.
Oakland versus Miami.
Miami.
Yeah, I'll take Miami at home.
Miami. Tennessee at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville as well. Denver versus Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Baltimore easy. Baltimore fight for it.
Baltimore's at home.
Yeah, Baltimore's at home. And
So,
that
Baltimore by 10.
like we were talking about before the podcast, Richie said that the Broncos defense looking kind of leaky right now, especially in the secondary. So
Do you think Philip Lindsay gets the better of the Baltimore defense in this game?
that's a tough
We'll wait and
defense,
see.
my man.
CJ Mosley's
We'll see.
probably not playing.
Yeah, we'll see.
San Fran at Kansas City. Oh, San Fran versus Kansas City.
That's gonna be a fun game to watch. I'll
Give me
take
the
Kansas
Chiefs.
City though.
Yeah.
Chiefs easy. Jimmy G's going to get his head knocked on the floor by the Chiefs defense. Buffalo versus Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah, that's an easy one. The Vikings are going to roll them over.
Yep.
Colts versus Philly.
That'll
Who's
be a
home?
good one. The Eagles are at home. Andrew.
Give me Carson Wentz.
Yeah, it'll be Andrew Luck versus Carson Wentz show. I like that. Man.
I don't like either team to really
know-
call on top. I want to say the Colts. I think the Colts pull it out, and it's going to be a close game.
Hey, I have to go Philly just because of the defense. I know
And
that
Carson Wentz is back.
I know they just got tore up by Ryan Fitzpatrick offense, but the Colts aren't anything like that, and I think Wentz coming back will help.
Same? Colts?
Yeah, I told you the Eagles
Okay.
right off the bat.
Sorry, I misheard you. This is going to be a good game, I think. It's a little underrated for most people. Green Bay versus Washington.
Give me the Packers.
Yeah, give me the Pack on the road.
Give me Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, give me a little bit healthier Aaron Rodgers, please.
The Green Bay Aaron Rodgers.
You know what? It's actually +3 for Washington is what it shows right now.
Well, yeah, usually whenever guys do the spreads, especially people in Vegas, if it's like supposed to be a close game, they'll usually give the home team 3 points to work with. So
I think that Alex Smith is a game manager for this and comes out on top. Chris Thompson is a huge game. I think is what's going to happen for us.
interesting.
And New Orleans versus Atlanta, big rivalry matchup.
I gotta take the Falcons at home, man. New Orleans
Wow.
is. Not, tell me what faith do you have in the Saints right now?
Kamara. Solely on Kamara and Mike Thomas, they can completely change the game with just them two alone.
It came down to a field goal
To beat the Browns.
against
What about
Cleveland.
Time out. The Browns should have won that game.
Definitely should have
They
won that
missed
game.
an extra point.
They missed 2 extra points and 2 field goals.
I think the Saints get their
Works
head on
out.
straight and they're going to come back and win this game.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta. They've done it before. I mean, these two have played against each other
There's
a lot.
just something different about the Saints team that I don't like.
It's the defense. That's what it is.
This
It's
comes
the
from a guy
defense.
who picked them to win a Super Bowl.
It's the defense. They're not playing up to their potential. There was a lot of holes that we saw the last 2 weeks. I think they get their head on straight, and I think they beat Atlanta. I think it's a close game, but I think that Saints going to come out on top for this one. Not really.
I'm taking New Orleans, so
New Orleans? There we go. Cincinnati versus Carolina.
Take Carolina.
Carolina?
I'll take Cam at home.
I'll take Cam at home too.
I'll take Cam at home just because I think
DJ
wide
Moore's going to have
receiver.
himself a hell of a day.
Same with McCaffrey. McCaffrey's going to be big. This one, I don't know about this one. The Giants at Houston.
Houston.
Ooh, yeah.
Because everyone's healthy on defense. I think I'll take Houston too. I think it's this defense. Watson gets his head on straight and starts blowing it up starting from here on out.
I think I'll take the upset and I'll go the Giants on the road.
Who's going to have a big game?
Odell.
Clippers versus Rams. Clippers. Why did I say Clippers? I see LAC and I see the
Wow.
Clippers because I'm not used to it. I want to say San Diego, so I'm going to say Chargers versus Rams. Battle of LA.
I'll take.
Richie's so mad at me.
As long as the Chargers can keep shooting the 3-ball really well, I like their chances. No, I'm just kidding. I'll take the Rams at home.
I'll take the Rams, obviously, at home.
I'll go ahead and take the Los Angeles Kings. Oh, sorry. Not hockey.
LeBron.
Yeah, I'll take LeBron at home.
I'll take LeBron.
Who's the home team? Is it the Rams or Chargers? Give me the Rams.
Awesome. Dallas at Seattle.
Dallas.
Yeah, and at this point, you just don't know what that Seahawks team is, even at home.
They're both such bad offenses, but I gotta give it to Dallas too, just because I think Zeke's gonna run all over this defense.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Chicago at Arizona.
Chicago.
I think Chicago.
I'll take the Bears.
I'll take Khalil Mack and the Bears for 500.
I think Sam Bradford gets hurt this game just because Khalil Mack's going to be back there so much. I think they actually might have put in Rosen just because of the injury. Because who else? Glennon is the other quarterback, and I'm not sure if they want to put him in. Because he's the third on the depth chart, isn't he? Pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah, he's third behind Rosen.
I think Rosen comes in this game because of injury. New England at Detroit.
Take New England. I think Belichick knows.
That's somehow Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, right?
Terrible slate to start the year.
I'm going to take the upset. I think Detroit plays a really good passing game, and Kerryon Johnson has a big game as well, and he leads the backfield in carries and yardage.
So really quick, we're 2 weeks into the season. What do you guys think of Matt Patricia as a head coach?
He's terrible.
I don't want to put it all on him because his defense is not bad. It's the offense and Matthew Stafford.
But he's a
that's not
defensive guy.
No one's buying into him.
Yeah.
No one has bought into the Patriot way.
There's a lot of like reports coming out of Detroit that they don't like the culture in the locker room at all, and like you bet your bottom dollar that Patricia took a little bit of that New England stuff and brought it over to the Motor City.
Well, I mean, Detroit kind of needs it. I mean, it's always been kind of rough.
No, they do need it, but if your guys aren't going to buy into it, there's no point in doing it.
You might need to move some players. I mean, it's his first year. This next year, watch him move around some of these players.
It is, and like I said, we're 2 weeks into the season, but it looks like he kind of has his hands full, and I don't think he kind of realized what he was getting himself into.
But I think Detroit's going to be motivated to beat New England. That's why I take the upset, and they're going to have a big game.
Hopefully.
Pittsburgh at Tampa for Monday Night Football.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa.
I'm not going to lie through my teeth. Tampa Bay.
I think Pittsburgh
by 30
is disgusted by
Wouldn't
their...
doubt me.
50.
Wouldn't doubt me.
100.
Getting close.
I think Pittsburgh wins this one. I think they get pissed off that they lost this last game, and they're going to come out there and kick some Tampa butt.
Ryan Fitzmagic, baby.
Yeah, as long as the defense remains how it is, and I don't think Keith Butler's going to change anything.
I think Watt has a big game.
Week.
Watt's going to have a big game and help you guys out.
I love TJ Watt more than I love myself. I really do.
So we're going to go into our fantasy segment, which everyone's been dying to hear. We kind of revamped it where we're going to talk about some sleepers, some sits, must-starts, all-star of the week, and a little bit of anything else we can think of. So who's your sleeper this week, Donnie?
Sleeper? Well, you said 3 sleepers and 1.
Yeah, go for a couple sleepers. I said 3, so.
Okay, so first sleeper I got, might not even qualify as a sleeper. I said Marshawn Lynch versus Miami. Lynch isn't that sexy name he was anymore now that he's with Oakland, especially Oakland's really slow start to the year. But, he's done fairly well the last couple of weeks, and I think John Gruden's starting to lean on him a little bit more. I'm not worried about Doug Martin in the backfield, and, Jalen Richard's not exactly the goal line prowess running back that Lynch is, so I'll definitely take him. Second, I'm going to go Peyton Barber versus Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Barber's done fairly well the last couple of weeks, and I think versus a really vulnerable Pittsburgh defense, I think he could be in for a big day. And then I said TJ Yeldon. I forgot who Jacksonville was playing. Do you know who? Jaguars. Titans.
Yeah, they're playing against their rival Titans.
Right, so this will all kind of depend on the health of Leonard Fournette. I think if Fournette starts, then I would kind of shy away from Yeldon. But if Yeldon can replicate his success he had last week versus New England, then I think he's a must-start.
I'll go ahead and take a couple sleepers here. The first one I'm going to start off with is John Brown with the Ravens. He's just coming out really strong this year. This Denver secondary has been very leaky, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's just able to turn on the Jets and just torch them a few different times. Kerryon Johnson's another guy I'm interested in. They seemed like they were able to get him going a lot more, and the Patriots are going to be an interesting matchup. They're a pretty good run defense, but I want to see more from Kerryon Johnson, and I think that he can deliver that. And then, of course, I'm going to close out with Austin Eckler. It doesn't seem to matter that he's behind Melvin Gordon in that lineup. It just seems like he's going to make his damage and make his presence felt in any way that he can. He ended the season strong last year, and he's come out really good this year with guns blazing.
You really like him, don't you?
Shut up, baby. I know it.
My 2 sleepers, I'm going to stick in Detroit with Richie, and I'm going to go Galladay, just because he's been playing really well for Detroit as a third option on that offense. I think he's going to keep it up this week, especially against New England, even with their improved pass defense. And my second one, I'm going to go with DJ Moore. Like you said, the head coach said he's going to get more opportunities to play and get some more looks. Put it on your roster. It's if you need him for your flex spot, it's going to be a good play.
You right.
We're going to go into our sits. Who's your sit of the week?
Sit of the week, I'm going to go Devin Funchess versus Cincinnati, primarily based off of what you just said. I think DJ Moore's stock is only going to rise from here. I know Greg Olsen is out with a foot injury for a really long time, and thus the ball is supposed to be spread a little bit more. Just not a big believer in Funchess. I don't think he can replicate what he did last year with the connection he has with Cam. I think McCaffrey is going to start to take on a little bit bigger role, if that's even possible, catching that amount of balls. But I think the show in Carolina moving forward is going to be McCaffrey and more. So I'm not very high in Funchess. So I would sit him versus the Bengals.
I'm having a hard time picking between one of the 3 Rams receivers. I would tell you it's going to be a coin flip. I just don't see all 3 of them producing at the same time against a very good Charger secondary.
I agree.
So I would tell you one of those 3 is going to have a really bad game, and the other 2 will be solid. Decent starts, but it's just so hard to feed that many mouths on such a good offense, and
Plus
someone's
Gurley.
bound to get shut down by Casey Hayward.
My sit of the week is going to be Sterling Shepard. A lot of people have him as their late option 10 or 12-man leagues. I don't see him getting a lot of catches in this one, so Sterling Shepard's got to be my sit of the week, especially going against a really tough Houston defense. Who's your must start of the week? Must, have to, cannot deny it, no matter
Ryan
what.
Fitzpatrick. I think that the last 2 weeks have not been a fluke, and he's got a fantastic opportunity sitting in front of him on primetime football to come out and just tear apart this Pittsburgh defense.
I think it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. A lot of the attention's been going to Antonio Brown lately, and rightfully so, because he's one of the best receivers in the league, and he does command the double-team respect that every team gives him. But Juju's been producing at a abnormal rate. I mean, he had a phenomenal rookie year, but, through 2 weeks, he's leading the teams in, receptions and targets, and I can expect more of that in Tampa Bay with, them not wanting to be burned by Antonio Brown.
My start of the week's got to be Jared Cook, tight end, playing against Miami. Even though Raiders' offense is terrible, Jared Cook's been the bright spot of this offense, coming off his 9 catches, 180 yards, the Rams, and then Denver 4 catches, 49, kind of came back to earth a little bit, but this Miami defense is not good enough to stop him. Look for him to put up big fancy numbers at your tight end slot. Who's your all-star of the week? Who's going to be the one that blows away like Patrick Mahomes did last week?
All right, I'm going to catch you guys off guard.
Good.
Lamar Miller.
Really?
Okay. Preach.
Playing the Giants are not a good squad. I think the Texans are going to walk in to their own stadium at home and just let their presence be felt. The Texans are 0-2, and we all know that they're better than 0-2. The Giants are exactly who we thought they are. Maybe a little more on that later in this podcast. Maybe it's the other podcast.
Yeah, who knows?
Until then,
stay tuned.
We all know that Lamar Miller plays better with Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson looked bad week 1. He looked like he improved quite a bit in week 2. Week 3 might be the best week for him to get it going. And I just see a huge day out of Lamar Miller. I could see 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown or 2 easily.
Okay. Really high on him.
Okay. So I'm going to actually keep it local here. I'm going to go Allen Robinson, who's going to be playing a very just weak Cardinals defense. The Bears don't have quite the offense that the Rams do, but I think, if anything, they'll be able to look at the tape and learn that, hey, there's a lot of holes on this defense. There's a lot of holes in the secondary. I think Patrick Peterson won't be on him a lot of the game. I think just because of, how Chicago's offense works, Matt Nagy being the guy he is, I think he'll be able to move people around and put him in the right position. So I'm expecting Allen Robinson to have a huge day in week 3.
There's a couple people I have as must start. Chris Thompson's one. Green Bay's hasn't been great on defense. Chris Thompson's a PPR monster. You have to start him in whatever league you have if you haven't already. Another big wide receiver you have to start is going to be Galladay. He's a sleeper, but if you're in a 10 to 12 man league, you have to start him. He's been putting up good numbers the last 2 weeks. He's currently 12 in PPR for wide receivers. You got to start him. Another one I would say have to start. Maybe Deshaun Watson, carrying on with the shutout that Richie was saying that they're going to come up and prove strong against the Giants defense. That's not been too good, especially against the Cowboys. The Cowboys should have put up more numbers if their offense was better. Look for Deshaun Watson to have a big game this week. And that about wraps it up. We didn't get any questions for fantasy football this week. We kind of promoted a little late. Do you guys have any last-second fantasy must-starts or anything like that before we go in?
Antonio Brown, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, must start him.
Julio Jones.
Yeah, Julio Jones.
AJ Green.
Odell Beckham. Travis Kelce.
Aaron Rodgers.
Rob Gronkowski.
Who?
Should we really start Gronkowski?
Barry Sanders.
Jim Brown.
Calvin Johnson. Come back!
Michael Jordan.
If only you could put Khalil Mack on offense. Well, that's going to be it for this week, guys. Thank you guys for listening in to our fantasy advice, to all the good NFL rundown. Until next week, this is Skylar Burkhart.
Richard Bradshaw.
Donnie Dren.
Catch you guys next week. Have a great night.